Open the church sample file. I'll be using it to discuss volumetric lighting. This model is a single room, and it's illuminated by a spotlight that's outside the room, shining in through this single stained glass window. There's a camera in the room, so press C to look through it, and do a test render by pressing Shift Q. The lighting is very stark right now because the room is being illuminated by a single source, and we're using the scanline renderer by default, so the light is merely illuminating the surface that it directly hits. It's not bouncing around in the room and lighting the rest of the space. We'll be using atmospheric effects to simulate this bouncing and scattering of light. Right now we are seeing these walls back here because I've increased the ambient illumination slightly in the scene. Press 8 to open the Environment and Effects dialog. This is where I increase the ambient light level. It's not pure black. It has some value, and this is illuminating all of the surfaces equally in the scene. I've also set up a fog effect for you right here. It's using the standard type, and I've already set up the environment ranges in the camera, and I've put in values in the near and far percentages here. I've also set a medium gray color to tone down the fog effect. Activate the fog right here, and then do a test render. This gives more illumination to the scene, even though we haven't added an additional light source. Notice that this pilaster is in sharper focus than this one over here, and that's happening because of the way that the fog is getting denser in the distance. The next thing I'd like to do is create a volume light. So I'll close these windows and select the light by name because I can't see it in the scene. It's outside of the room. Scroll down to the Atmospheres and Effects rollout and add a volume light. This effect is specific to the light source, so you can add it in this fashion. Once it's added, you can go to Setup, and you'll see it over here in the Atmosphere rollout. You could have alternatively added it here, but then you would have had to pick the light manually here. Either way, it's the same difference. These are the parameters for the volume light. Do another test render, and you'll see what volume light is. It's a fog within the light cone. Notice that the light cone here is rectangular, and that was set up here with this radio button. I also clicked on Bitmap Fit and selected the bitmap of this stained glass window to match the aspect ratio of the rectangle to the aspect of the bitmap. In that way, I was able to approximate the shape of the cone to the shape of the window. If we look at our test render, you'll see that the border here of the volume light is fairly sharp. And this is happening because the distance between the hot spot and the fall off is pretty minimal here. There isn't much room to transition from full intensity to zero. By increasing the fall off, we will soften the volume light edge. Do another test render, and you'll see that edge has been spread out and softened a bit. Now I'd like to tone down the intensity of the volume light. Press 8, select the volume light, and go down to its rollout. I'll change the density to 2.5 so that it's half as much, and render again. Now it's toned down to a reasonable level. The next thing I'd like to show you is the projector map that I've already set up for you. And I'd like to show you that separate from the volume light. So I'm going to deactivate the volume light temporarily. And then on the advanced effects rollout in the spotlight, I'm going to activate the projector map. This is using the bitmap of St. George that you see as the stained glass here. So we're going to be projecting the light through that bitmap, and it will illuminate the floor. So this is what a projector map is doing for you. When you use that in conjunction with the volume light through the same light source, you get an interesting effect. Now we're actually seeing the colors of the stained glass in the volume of the light as they are projected through the window. So this is the most sophisticated effect. This rendering shows the fog, the volume light, and the projector map to create this dramatic scene. Use these tips for creating drama in your scenes, whether they're religious architecture, a nightclub, or anywhere that you need to have atmosphere.